Of course, like many streets in all capitals around the world, they have the names of the kings and queens, and this is also one. Then one of the king from the dynasty who ruled in Serbia in 19th century. Actually, it was a very important dynasty because it was a period when the Serbia was in two uprisings, liberated from the Ottoman Turks, and of this pressure that was during the centuries in the past, for the Serbs important Kosovo battle in 1389. So 14th century was the turning point, and after that a long time, and the big part of Balkan Peninsula was occupied by the Ottomans, and this part of Islamization and penetration of Ottomans in Europe. So from this street we will come to see the part of central Belgrade, and the restaurant is in the fortress of Belgrade. So it's a little bit strange that you have a restaurant in the fortress, but one thing is very interesting. In many things, the Belgrade is a unique city in the world. The most devastated place in the earth for the last 5,000 years is Belgrade. It's amazing, but the Belgrade was destroyed 47 times. Only in 20th century, for one human life, for 85 years, Belgrade was bombed and destroyed 5 times. The First World War started when Austro-Hungarian Empire started bombing the Belgrade. Then we have another Austrian guy, his name was Adolf, and he bombed the Belgrade in 1941, in 6 April, it was Easter. And then 1944, Anglo-Americans bombers, because they have the bombs. And in the way to Austria and Ploiești, it was a foggy, so they go back and threw the bombs in the Belgrade in 1999 by the NATO. Anyway, the Belgrade is, because of these historical reasons, you can see this is the city of differences, of paradox, of amazing, strange part of the human nature. Everything is mixed here. Architecture, you can go in, you can stay in one street, and in this street, in 100 meters, you can see the buildings from 19th century, middle of 19th century, end of 19th century, beginning of 20, and every 20, 30 years how the things are changed. You can see the differences. So here we are in one of many squares. At the left hand side you can see the monument dedicated to Nikola Pasic. It was a prime minister in the time of the First World War, 100 years ago, and probably you don't know much about this period, but it was really something very, very important for the Serbs, because it was the moment when the population of Serbia was in that time 4 million people. And I don't know, do you know with the numbers in the First World War? And the First World War was killed. Do you have any idea how many people was killed in the First World War? In Serbia, because it started with Serbia. Totally, I don't know. 1,250,000. 60% of male population. 60% of male population was wiped out from 16 to 60. More than 30% of all population was wiped out. So biologically, you are fighting to save the lives. But unfortunately, whatever you look, disaster is all around us. The people don't respect the life, and it's something that was given to us, to be born and to live. Anyway, Belgrade is a good example. So you can see here why we stop here. In the left hand side, those who are on the right hand side, maybe you can see, this is the parliament of Serbia, and the parliament was made between two wars.
Do you want to get out
and
and take a picture?
it was the parliament of Yugoslavia, because after the First World War, because of this huge loss, then biological survival was the only solution, was to be with the other people who live in the Balkan, Croats, Slovenians, North Macedonians as they call themselves today, Montenegros or Bosniaks, whatever. Anyway, in the right hand side you can see we have two palaces, because after this long period of Ottoman occupation in Belgrade, the Ottoman rule was, do anybody have idea how long the period was? Ottoman period in Belgrade only about 360 years. Can you imagine occupation of 360 years? And all the time something that is a big problem for all Europe today, it's the Kosovo. Because to understand the things at the fortress and everything that happens, Kosovo is the turning point, and nothing is changed for the Serbs. I'm Joseph Thibault. This is my another story who is interesting. You can ask me about. I'm a mixture of 4 different nations. So, and I'm old enough to tell you everything you want to know if you are curious to know. Anyway, this turning point make mythology. So the Serbs are the slaves of the past and mythology. For example, like a Jewish people. Everything you start, I don't know, you have the colleagues, you look in the future, you resolve the everyday problem. But if you speak with the Serbs about out of the job, when you relax with a glass of wine or šljivovica, of course, then you will see that everything, the roots are so deep and so past, and the most of the people are emotional, not practical. So this is something that is can be a problem or advance. Anyway, the parliament was built between 2 huge big world wars, and we will pass slowly and you will see 2 figures. This is the horses. Maybe, I'm not sure, we will slowly pass and you will see the horses, and one boy have a horse on the chest, another one on the back, and the sculpture said, okay, this is the playing of the young boys with the horses. But next day in the newspaper, the daily newspaper, very very famous even today, Politica, that's Politic, there was the picture of these figures, and the joke, even use it today and you will understand, because it's same everywhere. They said it's different, it's very difficult to push the horse in the parliament, and then it's more difficult to take him out. So nothing has changed. We make jokes about this. Right hand side, this is the assembly of the Belgrade and the mayor office, and the next one is the palace of the president, ex-palace of the King Peter and Alexander Karađorđević, who came in power in 20th century. So just to give you an idea how it was, imagine that the Belgrade, before the liberation, the first liberation from the Ottomans came by the Austrians in 1717. The Eugen of Savoy, the one of the most brilliant head in Europe in that time, he liberated Belgrade. He came with the army, surrounded the fortress of Belgrade, you will see, and then from Niš, from south, another Turkish army came and surrounded him, but he beat both sides, inside and outside. And one of the things that he done, there was, nobody's sure about the number, but we discussed about a number of 300 mosques. And one mosque they start to build here, where is the parliament now. So when Austrians came, instead of the many mosques, the first thing that we don't have the street and we don't have the monument of Eugen of Savoy, we're supposed to have, but because of the reasons of the Second World War, because the Nazi, they give the name of one, I don't know, army or something like this. I'm not familiar with the army, those things. Anyway, we don't, but he opened the first school in 1718, the first school that the Serbs can learn and go in the Serbian language, which was the first step after these centuries of the occupation. So don't be surprised if you see here everything. Differences, paradox, unbelievable things, everything is part of the city. Okay, we are in the longest street in Belgrade, the Boulevard of King Alexander, another king and another boulevard. And it's go to 40 kilometers. The street is about 15 kilometers, but it goes to the city of Smederevo, the fortress on Danube, the last capital of Serbia before the whole area fall down in Ottoman's hands. The Belgrade is one of the oldest European cities and one of the oldest capitals. If you compare, for example, Paris or London with the Belgrade, they are teenagers, because the Belgrade as the city was built more than 2,000 years ago, and it was important strategic place for the Roman Empire. So the Roman, one famous Flavius, the dynasty of Flavius, they send the Legia, the fourth Legia here, and they build the city, the fortress. So the fortress of Belgrade is unique because usually you can see the fortresses of ancient time, medieval time, Turkish, French, German, Austrian, Italian, whatever. But this one is everything, because you can see in one wall, and I think we will pass. I can show you if you when we come out from after the dinner, you can see in one wall 1,800 years, and you can see developing of the weapons and defensing system. So everything is. That's why the fortress is unique in the world, because, as I told you in the beginning, destruction, rebuilt, destruction, rebuilt. Everybody was here. Attila the Hun, Avari, Tat Ari, even the Hung Ari, when they came, they were owner of the city. Friedrich Barbarossa, Crusaders, when they come from Europe to the Holy Land. Today we have this problem in the Holy Land. Of course, he passed through the Belgrade. And why the Belgrade have this very tragic destiny? Its answer is very simple and always was exactly the same: control. If you have a Belgrade, you can control half of the Europe. Most important European river is the Danube. The longest part of the Danube is in Serbia. And the rivers was the highways of the past. What do we have? The buses, airplanes, trains, 100, 120 years, 150 years, but the 2,000 years before that, only the rivers. And the Romans built a huge, strong fortress with about 4,000 to 5,000 troopers. One legia was here, and of course, the surround develop. When you have the army, it's a good business, and the people are here to support. So after the Romans, because, you know, in the Roman time, the Belgrade was important point. When you cross the Danube, there was barbarians. The civilization was here. Barbarians was in the north, northwest, northeast. But then empire was divided into Roman and Constantinople and Roman Empire. So you have two heads. So you probably saw what is in the flag of Serbia. Russia, eagle, but this is double-head eagle, because when the Constantine came, when there were two capitals, Roman Empire. One was in Constantinople, today Istanbul, another was in Rome. So one head look in the east, one to the west, and the body is here in the middle. So the Belgrade was in the middle, and now we are in the street with the name, have a name of one of the strongest and the most important emperor of the medieval Serbia time, the Emperor Dušan. And during the time, there was a lot of developing and the dynasty Nemanjić. And one thing is interesting for you. Look, this is the Museum of Medicine. This white building here, right hand side. I forgot the name, maybe you know, but one of the first men who used airplane for the medical treatment in the First World War was Canadian doctor and the pilot. And part of the museum is dedicated to him because he was a volunteer, like 1,000 people who came from this mostly Great Britain and the other countries, but mostly the Britons came as a volunteer. And this Canadian, I forgot his name, maybe you know. So the part of the museum and the offices for the, I don't know, one of these health institution in Serbia. You know this probably better than me if you are in contact with your colleagues. Anyway, this street brings us to the fortress. 5-6 minutes we will be there, and we must pass near the zoo and go up. We will walk maybe 5, maybe 7 minutes up to the restaurant. Okay, I know it's not easy after your very busy day. I hope this day was a success for you and you're satisfied with your work. And my job is to give you 2,000 years of history in half hour. Just try to give you just one idea about the city. But it's really very, very strange that you can find everything here. One of the funny thing is that you can have inscriptions in Arabic letters, in Japanese, in Greek letters, in Turkish, Polish. Almost everybody was here because the Danube and the Belgrade was important port for the trade. If you look the map of Europe, you will see that the Belgrade is just in the middle between Munich in Germany and Constantinople. So always there was, from the Black Sea, Danube, northwest, southeast, the main communication was the river Danube. In the middle of the road was Belgrade. So sometimes people here make the jokes about this hard time. And they said, okay, what can we do? We build a house in the middle of the crossroad. That's why one thing is interesting in Belgrade. I'm too old for this. Even my daughter is too old for this. But my grandsons will come very soon. I'm not sure. This time passed for me. There is about over 200 club restaurants who work 7/24. And there is a nice expression. If you come about 2 o'clock in the morning, they ask you, what do you want? Breakfast or dinner? You go home or you just come out? And the life here is number one. Above everything is life. Because if the people who live here, first of all, there is another nice thing about the Belgrade. Everybody's at home because everybody come from somewhere. Because all this history mixture and the trade and the good business. In the peaceful time, you was in the middle of the most important things that happens. And today, it's the city for 2 state universities, and I don't know how many private universities we have. Over 150,000 students, about 2 million people, and supposed to be always was an open city. And according to statistic, in this moment in Belgrade live about 17 different nations. If I said 17, it means if the number is 50,000 or more. Only the population, Jewish population, is less because of this Nazi time and occupation of Belgrade 1941 till 1944. because the extermination was almost 100%. Almost. Okay, we are here. I hope I give you just a small idea about the curiosity to see. And the Belgrade became a capital of Serbia little more than 600 years ago, when even before that, one of the kings, one of the most powerful kings in medieval time, in about 1350, King Milutin, he owned the city, but it was not the capital. But capital became in 1404, and from that time till today it's the capital. But during this period, it was not in the Serbians' hand all the time. Here we are. Thank you. You was very kind. I know that you are tired. I tried to give you just a few things. Here we are. Let's go outside and be careful because the tram just passed.